Hi everyone, welcome to Cosmic Hearts Healing. My name is Jenny. For all you who are new, hi, I'm so glad that you're here. For everyone who is back, I appreciate your support and I love you all so, so much. Some of you have been with me pretty much since day one, and even if you've been with me for a week or a day, I love you all and I appreciate your support on my journey. I've been seeing a lot of growth in my clients, people who have went from like years ago, I would give them card readings, kind of guiding them. Now their card readings are more towards confirmation, them being in alignment and knowing what they're working on. So I love to see that change in them. And I love to see people's shifts. So yay. I just want to give like a shout out to those who are doing the work, who are seeing that shift, and I'm so proud. Your spirit guides are probably just as proud. So today I just wanted to come here and talk a little bit about my journey, how I got started, and ways that I view healing and ways that I've worked on myself throughout the past 7 years. It started back in 2016. My family had gone through some trauma and I wanted to read healing books. I was praying for truth. I didn't realize the truth that I was going to get was self-awareness, having to work on myself, understand myself, and those types of truths of why I was attracting the unhealthy energy that I had at that time. Also, I started reading healing books that led to chakras. My children gifted me a Reiki 1 class, and I took that at Roxa Love Morris. And I worked my way up through that, and then other classes as well. But at the same time I was doing all that, my spiritual gifts started to just like naturally expand on their own. I woke up in the middle of the night with my hands tingling. I was like, what is going on? Like all this energy, you could just feel it like pulsating out my palms. I started having dreams about Merlin, and I would hear in the middle of my sleep, I get a lot of messages or words in the middle of my sleep. Sometimes I have dreams that are like mirroring to me either energy I need to heal, energy that is present in the outside world that they want me to be aware of, or energy that I've had healed, and it's like the spiritual energy like releasing, or they show me like something new that's coming into my life. I have straight up dreams, and I just had to learn how to decipher what dream it is and what they all mean. And then I also just hear in the middle of the night, I hear songs, almost like there's a jukebox playing in the room. I'll just hear a song if it's like something that they want me to know or something someone's not sharing with me. They play a song, or I just hear like straight up conversation. Like last night I heard them telling me that I'm on a new phase, that I'm not saying I'm done healing, but this deep work, and I know I've healed a lot of my stuff, peeled off a ton of layers, but I'm on a new phase now of my life. How that's gonna look, I'm not so sure. So I'm open, but I heard the word new phase and I was getting guidance which way it's going. So I'm looking forward to that. So Merlin would come to me. I would hear the words vortex healing. So I would get up at 2, 3 in the morning. What is vortex healing? And it is a type of healing that Merlin, that a man in New York claimed Merlin taught him in his sleep. So since then, I've learned healing in my sleep. I will learn a type of healing in my sleep, and then 2 weeks later, someone within my soul family will go through an incident where the healing that I learned is what I need to use to help them through their wounding. So it is amazing, though. That's just a little bit about how I got started. And I want to start by explaining a little bit about the chakras. I'm not going to go into detail, but we have 7 chakras within the body, and then we have meridians that carry the energy like veins everywhere. I like to, when I'm explaining chakras, when I'm explaining energy, let's just say you have road rage, okay? Road rage is tied to the energy of anger and also control, okay? So you might just think why am I so angry? Okay, so that's what's happening in the present moment, but it's triggering a lot of wounding from your past. So imagine your chakras, 7 of them, all nice and bright and colorful. And let's just say anger and control. How many times in your life have you been presented with anger or someone trying to take control or take your control? Or how many times have you gotten angry and you've tried to control something, or you can't release control? Okay, so imagine your chakra, I would say probably the root chakra for this one, so big red bulb. And imagine every time that that's happening, that your light bulb is getting dimmer, 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 until you're at a place in your life where you're not feeling, you're feeling lost, you're having anxieties, or all those things. So when we're working on something in the present moment, we have to remember that it's really triggering that underlining energy. So if you're dealing with road rage, I will go into steps of how to work through that in a little bit, but that was just an example of imagining a bright chakra and how much it's dimmed throughout your whole life. And I don't like to say that a chakra is ever blocked. I think there could be energy that we need to work through, but I think energy is always flowing and always moving. Water can always get around, energy can always get around. Earth, like plants have been known to grow through rocks and stuff like that. So energy can always be shifted and changed. So I like to use the term like more dim or working through rather than blocked. So one of the first things that I worked on was raising my vibration and just recognizing a few energies that spirit showed to me. So they wanted me to work on gratitude. And at the same time, I was working on anger. And I didn't realize in that moment, but they showed me someone else was working on grief, but I didn't realize what mirroring was. So that was a mirror that I was also too working on grief in that moment. I just didn't have the awareness that I do now. So I tell my clients this all the time, like that light bulb being dimmed. Like they say that they can't even feel gratitude. I've been there. That's okay. That's where you're at. Allow it and don't beat yourself up that that's where you're at, but take the steps to try to build that gratitude. So I was working on gratitude. I got a journal, but I'm not one to journal. I'm more like journal in my head. So I just started to be thankful for everything. Thank you for the blue sky. Thank you for my car. Thank you for the insurance. Thank you that I have a job that I can afford the car, the insurance, and the gas. Just so much like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I wasn't feeling it. Now, if I'm like, thank you, I know it's cloudy today, but thank you for the blue sky. Like even the thought of it will like light up here in my heart chakra because my chakras are more bright. Okay. I'm not saying I never have lower energies, you know, but I know how to work through them and I know how to pretty much keep it flowing. And this is called an energy scale if you've never seen one before. It starts from like enlightenment, so it goes from higher vibrations is what I call them, more to lower vibrations. I would like to add gratitude in here, probably underneath love, and I would like to add control underneath, because I know control was one big, I don't want to say demon, but a lower vibration that I really had to disconnect from. Okay, so as I was working on gratitude, I was also working on anger. I don't want to use anger anymore, unhealthy anger. Okay, there's healthy anger and there's unhealthy anger. There's healthy fear and there's unhealthy fear. It's like I said, knowing how to work through them. So I wanted healthy communication, and I did not want to fall into toxic anger any longer. And the world was presenting me with opportunities, and it's like, fine, if that's what you want, are you really going to do that? And I had to show up. I was like, yes, I'm going to do that. And I showed up when someone else was using what I consider toxic anger. And that's when I realized that I was channeling, because some of the words that came out of my mouth I knew weren't of me, kind of say. It was like so beautiful that I know it came from higher source. But I was working on that gratitude. I was working on increasing my vibe. I was working on doing that inner work. So by doing that, it gave me the opportunity to like say, hey, I'm working, I'm doing my job, like keep supporting me, keep helping me. And in that moment that I needed them, they came through for me. Okay, so if I'm not working on gratitude, if I'm not working on these things really consciously, like really doing it, if I'm not really trying to let go of anger, when I'm in that moment, who knows what I'm channeling? Like I could, like, did you ever leave an argument and you're like, what did I say? Like, where did that even come from? Some of like, you know, and you could be saying some really toxic anger stuff that I do believe now, because I had that experience, could have been coming from like a lower energy, spiritual energy that you're channeling through you. Not to scare you, but the vibration you carry within, you attract in the outside world as well. So I was working on anger, and that's the thing. So when I'm working on anger in that present moment, okay, I'm gonna go downstairs, I'm gonna stay focused in that present moment. I'm gonna go downstairs, I'm gonna try to raise my vibration. I didn't fall into toxic anger. I stood my ground. I'm not gonna say I wasn't like feeling it all, and I wasn't like fighting to not express it, but I stood my ground into the new energy I wanted to invite into my world. Went downstairs, listened to music, and other times when I was presented with anger, I sat on the floor meditating, or I sat on the couch like this, my eyes closed, and the person was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm literally praying. I'm praying that we can get through this in a healthy way. I'm not going to match your energy. I understand that's where you are, because not everyone's going to be working on the same energy as you are. These people might not ever leave or be ready to address toxic energy. They could be living in their patterns, their karmic patterns is what I call them. And that's okay. Like I love them where they are, but I also know how to keep their energy separate from mine, and I know how to be me now. But when you're first learning how to do that, it's not always easy to separate. Like, this is me, this is you, this is my boundary. Like, I'm still sharing and expressing and like getting through I'm not avoiding the issue. I'm not just people pleasing. I'm still expressing and getting my point across of what I want to be heard. Okay. But it gets easier in time, because imagine that chakra being so dim. Okay. Because you're working on anger in the present moment, but you're also working on anger from where you're at now in life and how dim it got. You're working on all those layers. You might not know it, but you are. Okay. So you have to remember that it's going to be hard to not match energy. It's going to be hard to face that, because the more and more that you clear that energy up, and the more and more that you're healing yourself, it gets easier to face it. Now, to go into detail about how to do that, we heal in 4 ways: emotionally, mentally, spiritual, and our physical body or our physical world. Okay, so I like to start with mental. So with anger, how can you grow to understand the mental energy in regards to anger? You can Google how to heal toxic anger, the effects of anger on the body, which is probably going to lead you to fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So you can read how having toxic anger can affect your nervous system, and that's one main thing that we need to heal in the healing process, is learning how to regulate and not fall into fight, freeze, fawn. And then also you can just Google, like, God gave us a mind. God gave us a logical mind, and how does the logical mind work best? How to have working our mind at the optimal level. something they should probably teach in school, right? Something that we use every day rather than that history or like whatever else, chemistry I use, like stuff that I don't use every day. Like, why don't we teach children this? But anyway, yeah, so learning about the logical mind. If you read about the mind and anger, if I was to, and the universe presented children in my life for me to see why I was learning about this, that this is really how it works. Like, if I am upset with a child, or if someone else is upset with a child and they are yelling at them, they are automatically, there's something in your brain that shuts down. You're blocking them from actually hearing you. So parents or anyone is getting louder because you want to get your point across. You're not feeling seen and heard. You're having triggers. You're having an emotional experience. And rather than regulating those, which I'll talk about in a little bit, we are just getting it out, and we're getting it out loud, and you're automatically making the other person shut down. You're putting them in a state of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, and children and adults cannot process you and what you're saying because of your tone of voice. And I got to sit down with this child, and I was speaking, like trying to work through situations in just an everyday tone of voice. And she said, "I don't like you." And I was like, "What do you mean you don't like me?" She's like, "'Cause I hear you." And this is what I was learning. It was what I was trying to share with my friend of like, see, this is exactly what I'm saying. Like, children hear you when you don't yell. Adults hear you better when you don't yell. We're just so programmed into feel anger, become it, that we need to learn how to break those patterns. So by me learning how the mind goes, if my child does something wrong, I'm not going to trigger into that anger, because now, rather than wanting to trigger into that anger, my logical mind is saying that's not really the proper way to go. That's not how she's going to hear you best. Okay, so just growing your mental mind of like knowing all that stuff really helps you to deal with anger in a more healthy way. So now going on to spiritual. Say something's coming up and I'm having, somebody's presenting me with anger, okay? Or how to heal anger, because you got to remember that chakra is now dimmed. So you're being presented with it in a present moment, but you're feeling the trigger, you're feeling all the energy, you're feeling a lot, okay? Especially if you're an empath. You're feeling all these triggers a lot because that chakra is still dimmed. There's still layers, even if you may not be aware how many layers that you know, but they're still there. So you ask spirit for healing. I know it sounds so easy, but that's it. Just say, please God, in this moment, help me to heal the situation, help me to heal the anger within my body, help me to heal the anger that's ever affected me from now, or from when I was like a baby up until now. Help me to heal anger that I've ever presented or that I've ever projected on anyone else. So just really working through wash it away in the shower, right in the shower, cleanse me of all this anger before going to bed. I know I was triggered by anger today. Help me to heal this within my body from now until childhood. If you believe in past lives, you can include past lives. Like from now until time, help me to heal these energy layers, so I'm not so responsive and I'm not having that trigger. Okay, there's guided meditations to release anger. There's guided meditations to let go of control. There's guided meditations for protection. So spiritual. All right, you can go to a healer who has done some of their inner work, and they could try to clear like a bunch of layers for you. Everything takes time though, but you know, whenever I'm working on a client, I'm trying to get to the depth of that. I want to get to the core of where all that sits, to help them, to hold space for them to be able to face this on a healthier level, mentally, emotionally, and in their world. Okay, moving on to emotions. Emotions, you have to feel it to heal it. So anger, most of us are used to feeling it. So it's more like We have to feel it, not become it. But there's other things, like I used to be insecure, okay? And when insecurity was coming up, I just used to be insecure until I started to acknowledge it. And once you have awareness, that's like the first step of healing it. If you are not going to make anything aware, if you're not going to be aware of what you have to work on, if you just want to brush everything off, if you just want to live life, that's fine. But awareness is the first step to wanting to work on these things. So you're working on awareness, so you got to, okay, then feel it to heal it. I'm going to switch to feeling insecure. So I'm feeling insecure in that moment, and I have to remember that bright chakra and how many times, even if someone didn't want to make me feel insecure and it's just the way that I perceive their comment, I'm not saying, but I'm more quiet of a person. So sometimes people misread that, okay? Everyone is wounded in their own way, and we all see out of our own lens. So before I understood that and I could process that correctly, how many times did someone say that I didn't realize was a projection of them, not myself, because I was seeking validation from the outside world, and that's something that just shrunk my chakras, and I had to work on insecurity. So when insecurity came up in the now, I wasn't just working in the now, but I'm also working on healing it, all those layers. And why does it take so much time is because that was a really thick layer. It was one of my core wounds. It went deep, okay? But I had to feel it to heal it. So then I had to acknowledge it, had to do the mental work. Mental work, I could Google how to heal insecurity, how to let go of insecurity, how is insecurity formed in childhood, and then just telling myself reasons why I can be secure. So I used to be insecure, let's just say 100 times a day. Even if one time I didn't fall down that rabbit hole, I'm winning, okay? Then that's a win. And then that 99 went to 45 times. The 45 times went to 4. And the more and more I catch it, the more and more that I'm aware. And I just used to tell myself, like small reasons. I'm a good mom. I work hard. I try to support everyone the best that I can, you know? Other people's perceptions of me could be from their wounding. It's not always like clear as to who I am. So just trying to work on that, but you have to feel it to heal it. Working on emotional intelligence. You can go on YouTube and Google mind control, which I didn't even get to when I talked about the mental energy. I'll get to that in a little bit down below. You can Google that. You can Google emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is just saying, okay, if I'm falling into, now I'm going to use the energy of trust, okay? And trust has been something that I needed to work on. I didn't really understand discernment. That's a whole nother lesson in itself of why and how that's created. But I had to learn discernment. I had to learn boundaries. I had to learn how to read people. By understanding these core wounds and by understanding all this stuff really helps me to see people clearly. So by doing all that stuff really helped me to build trust. So think of my third eye. Your third eye is having wisdom, okay? Wisdom, it's also connecting to your guides, but how Spirit explained it to me, because every chakra is grounded in spiritual and every chakra is grounded on earth. So the third eye is having wisdom to work through some of these lower vibrations. Experiencing these lower vibrations aren't bad, but imagine my chakra with how much trust issues I had. That's just working with the energy of trust. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust the world. I didn't know how to read people. I didn't know how to discern. I didn't know how to connect with my guides. I wasn't sure if I was doing, like, imagine all those trust issues. And I took distrust one at a time and I slowly worked on it. And I expanded my wisdom in regards to my energy of distrust. Okay? The more you expand your wisdom, the more you're learning and living in alignment with your higher self, the more you're learning how to live your how to not self-sabotage and how to create and manifest from your highest being. So emotional intelligence, if I was feeling distrust, I could say, wow, I'm really not trusting. This person's just running to the store, or this person's just doing that. And I'm sitting here in pain thinking, can I trust them? Can I do this? I have to know that it's not this person, okay? I have to understand. And it's really nice if you could have a partner where you're like, wow, I just freaking experienced that when you were gone. Not saying you did anything wrong, but this is my experience and this is what I need to heal and this is what I'm trying to work on. Okay, so it's being aware that every emotion that you feel is not coming from the present moment. It could be coming from the past and those triggers and that wounding. Okay, so really being in tune with how you feel and why you're feeling. So if it is something, if it's distrust, or if it's anger coming up in this present moment, do I have the skills to work through it? Do I have the wisdom to work through it to my highest ability? And you're not always going to, you might have to take steps to learn through, like, I was a people pleaser. I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't even know how to share my voice. I didn't know how to make sure, like, if I'm not feeling seen and heard, how to say, hey, I'm not feeling seen and heard right now. Like, I'm allowed to have these feelings, like being able to show up for myself. Like, so there's other things, like as you're working on one trigger, there's always layers of getting through it all. So emotionally understand why you're being triggered. Like when you're having that road rage, like, why am I, like, I know a lot of us, we just say, hey, it's road rage. Like, hey, you know, it's road rage. But really, no, it's anger and it is control. So you're being triggered because you're not going with the flow. So when I was presented with road rage, I would tell myself things in my mental mind, because again, 4 levels, I would tell myself things in my mental mind, like, I just have to allow this person's out of my control. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. I just need to go with the flow. I stopped listening. So I changed what I did in the physical. I stopped listening to music because music was something that I was used to. Started listening to comedy, started to listen to spiritual talks, started to listen to things that would help keep me more present, because I was always kind of used to hearing music. I literally hardly ever listen to music in my car, and it's been like 7 years. So now I'm trying to go back to listening to music, and it's weird. I don't know, side note. Yeah. So like asking yourself why you're being triggered. So also knowing in that moment, rather if you do it then or once you go home, like again, 4 levels, mentally telling yourself to go with the flow, that this is out of your control, and then doing the spiritual energy. Hey, I was triggered today. I was triggered today with that road rage. I know that has to do with healing anger and healing control. So if you want to think about it, think about all the times in your childhood that made that chakra really dim, that's making that trigger so strong, that's making you feel it so deep. And like, imagine that. If it helps you to vent it, write it on a paper, burn it. I've done that before. Write notes to people. You don't have to physically give them to them, but you can write a note to someone, like how you experienced the energy or what you experienced, like at some point in your life, and then burn it, tear it up, flush it down the toilet. Like, just try to get it out. Also talk to your spirit guides about it, telling them that you realize now that your chakras are like lower and that you need to peel off all those layers to that. And eventually, I'm not saying I never was like, oh my God, that guy's like driving so stupid. Like, I'm not saying that I don't have that thought, but I'm very rarely falling into the road rage that I used to have back in 2016. So ask yourself, emotional intelligence, you haven't studied it, then study it. Why am I being triggered? Is it past? Is it current? Or is it a fear about the future? And learning how to control how you're feeling, which I've already kind of explained about. And then doing the physical work. showing up differently. There's some times that I've done some deep healing, which I'll talk about in a little bit about the abandonment wound, but then finally deciding to show up in the world differently is not always an easy thing to do. So knowing that you have the strength, solar plexus, you see something wrong in your world, root chakra, you have the desire to change it, solar plexus, having the strength to show up differently. By doing all those 3 steps, you're working on those lowest chakras too. And you're expanding them, creating more healthy flow, rather than not acknowledging or not having the healthy desire or not having the strength to say something. And yeah. So I'm already half an hour in and I'm only on the first step of how I work through things. I'm so sorry this is gonna be long. And then the next thing I was guided to do was research medical things going wrong with me. Again, Google is like Amy told me Google is one of the best spirit guides ever. So you go on to Google and you put in metaphysical meaning of, and then your health issue. All right, so I did this for myself. Some of the issues that I've had ongoing started when I was about 19. So I was guided to start with the one that started first, because that psoriasis turned into psoriatic arthritis. The psoriatic arthritis turned into stuff wrong with my gut, and like it kind of just snowballed. But the layer started at that first one. So I always start with the core. When you Google the metaphysical meaning of, it's going to guide you to the mental emotional wound, so you know what you're working on within the physical body and in the physical world, and what you need to ask spirit to help you with. You can do this if you are interested in healing your, people call it generational curses, healing your bloodline. It's all words of like making your life happier, that us like humans like to call all these things. But you can put in metaphysical meaning of, like, my dad's side of the family, there's lots of smokers, they run into lung issues. So the metaphysical meaning of lung issues, or the emotional energy of the lung, or the lung meridian. So by researching that, I might get to see into my family bloodline of what mental and emotional wound isn't the family having on a balanced level. All right. And then, let me get a drink really fast. All right, and then working on staying present and grounded, going with the flow, and knowing you're not stuck or not feeling rushed, okay? Staying in the present moment is just learning how to stay grounded, which the more and more that we work on those triggers that I talked about, the more and more we're staying in the present moment. So when I was working on my mind control, energy, spirit, when I say spirit, if you want to say God, if you want to say universe, I work with ascended masters and other guides as well, but I consider them like higher beings. I do think there is one higher being, but so when I say my spirit guides, that's what I mean, or them. I'm talking about a higher vibrational being. They, or when I say they guided me to really try to stay focused in the now. I mean, when I was walking outside, because this is going back to 2016, when I was working on gratitude, anger, and grief, I was trying to stay really present in my mind. Like, they had me saying what foot I'm walking with, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Or I was walking in a law firm and trying not to step on cracks. Like really, guys, I'm 40 years old, trying not to step on cracks. But they wanted to keep my mind here and not in the past trauma, or not worried about how it's all going to play out in the future. When I was going to court, they put a song in my head, and It's my childhood song, so I'm thinking about it right now. It's making me tear up because I love it. But they would put a song in my head, and I had a Vortex healing book, and I would bring my book to court. And when I wasn't being presented with the situation, when I wasn't being presented with the trauma, I stayed in the book or I stayed in the song. Just repeat of how to stay present in this moment, not worried, not in anxiety, not in fear, not in all those other things that aren't going to serve me better. Okay. So Lewis Hawes does have a great talk about mind control by Dr. Ethan Kross. Spirit always like to guide me through it first. Like, you're going to learn this lesson and you're going to learn how to do all these things. And then years from now, we're going to find you this doctor who's going to explain everything that you should have known. So, it's just my story. I get the guidance after I learn the lesson. But I like to do that because then when someone comes to me for the healing session, I could be like, watch this. Like, go home, watch this guy. He'll talk for an hour and a half, and I only have maybe 20 minutes or half an hour with you, you know? So learning how to stay present in the mind and the emotions when you're at, like, really pinpointing. Like, if I'm trying to stay in the present moment right now, I can look at the decorations on my wall. I can look at my dog. Like, I can just try to stay here. Going with the flow has a lot to do with breaking codependency. If someone was to ask me to define codependency, it's wanting anything outside of me to be different or letting any outside situation not allow me to be who I'm meant to be. Okay, so codependency kind of controls that flow. Okay, like, this is where I'm at right now. This is the part of journey that I'm on right now. I can't be anywhere different. I need to accept that. Okay, so, someone else is. Like, I'm trying to work on anger, they're not. And being okay with that. It's not an easy thing to learn, but going with the flow, and then not feeling stuck. Not telling yourself you're not far enough, not feeling like you're not doing enough, not feeling like you need to be somewhere different. Like, reprogramming that mind. Like, I remember when I was working on this, I had a reader tell me, you're stuck. And I'm like, no, please don't use that word with me. I may be in hermit mode to try to get a download, or, you know, but I'm always aging. I'm always learning. I'm always changing. I'm always growing. Time is constantly moving. I'm not stuck. I'm not in, like, quicksand. The time is not frozen in time. Like, so just, like, on doing that word, because if you're feeling that emotionally and mentally, you can attract it in your physical world. So if I'm feeling stuck in emotionally, mentally, my business is going to feel stuck, because the law of vibration, the vibration that you have within you, you attract. Okay, so by doing all this work, you're going to attract at a different level, and it's just going to create different flow in your life. All right, learning about attachment styles, core wounds, and communication styles. I know this is a lot. I started off a little bit at a time, but one of my core wounds that I had a lot, but one of the ones that I recently just healed to a very, 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 very deep layer that I've been working on for 7 years was this abandonment wound. Okay, so if people come to me, I have my own deck, which I'm hoping to have published one day, but I have all the wounds on there, all the core wounds that I've personally have come across in my own life are in those cards. So if I make someone aware about this, this is what I tell them. The 4 stops again: emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and your physical world or physical body. So with this abandonment wound, the mental thing, Go home and research about it. What is the core wound of abandonment? How is the core wound of abandonment created in childhood? If you are a parent, that just makes you more aware. Like making sure your child is seen and heard. When I started to become aware of that, I started to talk to my daughter differently. I started to make sure like she's always giving to me her point of view. So rather than just saying, don't grab that cup in the parking lot because it's COVID, we all have our masks on, and then we're finally like stores are open again. She went to grab a cup like this, you know, and I was like, or like that. I was like, don't grab the cup, you know, not like yelling, but using a stern voice, like don't grab the cup. And then I took that, because I was studying this wound, took it a step deeper as to saying, I don't want you to touch that cup because this is what I was thinking. COVID, I don't want you to get germs. What were you thinking? Like, why did you want to touch the cup? Can you please share your point of view with me? So just taking the extra step to make sure that always seen and heard. Okay, so anyway, by doing this, it really makes you a healthier person to everyone in your world. And this is when staying present and going with the flow is very important, because I have been, one of the things in here, the abandonment projection has to do with trauma bonding and a certain type of person or a certain type of energy that I would be drawn to. And other people may not have understood why I was drawn to it. And there was times like that I had this list and I told Spirit, look, I see that on there. Like, I have to just stop. I don't, like, this is bad for me. And Spirit was like, that would be you avoiding your healing. Like, you need to face what you're being drawn to. You need to face why you're being drawn to it, because you need to feel it. You need to address the layers. You know, you need to be able to be where you are, accept that you're in this abandonment wounding and that you're showing up in this unhealthy way. Like, I could have read this list in 2017 and just said, I'm done with it all. Like, I'm not really too sure what would have happened that way, but to me, I'm just living a life. I don't know. I can't say, because that's not how I did it. I was always guided to stay in this energy, stay where you're being triggered. This is where you're at. This is what you're attracting. Law of vibration says it's in you. You need this outside thing to trigger it, to bring it up, rather than avoiding, staying hidden, not coming out into the world. Okay. So understanding that not everyone's going to understand your journey. That's okay. Like, be in your flow, know where you're at, trust it. You know, even if you know you're in an unhealthy karmic loop, you know, that's where you're at. And that's okay until you get to those deeper healings. Like my abandonment wound, let's just say that chakra was like this. It started off when I was young. I had eye surgery, and it cut off the energy, like right here in the eye, which is the yin energy. So that was how my abandonment wound started. And then it just manifests. Like if I would go on a hike with my family, I would be the one that gets lost. Hello, like a sign of abandonment. Like, and it just continued. I'm not going to point out everything that comes in my mind of how this abandonment wound just kept showing up in my life from childhood to like adulthood. But because understanding the spiritual laws, the law of vibration, I have it within me. I haven't addressed it. I haven't healed it. I haven't undone. I haven't undone that. I haven't done the healing work within my chakras to make my chakra flow better. That's what I'm going to attract. That's what I'm going to be drawn to. That's what I'm going to be pulled to. Okay. And that's okay. So, and then once you, so working on it in the mental body, Googling it, like, how is it projected? How is it created? How can you release it? And then just doing it, like knowing that it's there and allowing it to be there and take time. Like I kept on asking my spiritual team, like, help me to heal this. I I do ask every day before going to bed, like, cleanse me of everything, release any lower perspective, help to guide. And I do this for me and my children and anybody else attached to us that will accept this healing. And I say like the same thing every night to guide us for our highest good, to help us work through any situations. If you have a jar that you just put in, like if it's an abandonment wound, like if you see this list and you're like, ooh, I do overgive. I am known to self-sabotage. You know, I'm kind of drawn to people who are unemotionally available. Like, I can kind of relate to this list. Just maybe have like a little jar that you put in there, you know, this is the abandonment wound. Anything else that comes up, anger, control. And then if you drop a crystal in it, or if you just acknowledge it, like, if I don't acknowledge this every day, source, energy, God, higher source, please help me work through this every day. When you're in the shower, cleanse me of everything in that jar. Like, you can make it fast. You don't need to make these things like deep, if that makes sense. So enjoy it. Enjoy working on this stuff, because it is heavy stuff, but enjoy it. And then, so working on it mentally, spiritually. So you're asking Spirit to help you release it, asking them to show you how it's created, and then being in flow, knowing that it takes time. Like, healing is not like this. At least mine was not like this. I have other things going on in my mind, but I'm trying to stay in focus because healing can be like this. But yeah, but mine, with these core wounds, because they were so deep, it took time to peel them off. If it is a past wound, like my daughter had a fear of water, and that healing is a one and done, because that was something carried over from past life, if you believe in that, from family bloodline, something carried forward that wasn't even hers. So we could one and done it and be done. Other times I've had like other one and dones too. Most of the time it's a lot of like one and done people have already worked through this emotional wound. They're already on track, or a child who is going through a health issue that there's no attachment to anything emotionally, mentally. So there is times that it can be one and done, but these deep ones are not one and done. So take time, keep asking. Like, I had to go to the right party. I had to go to the right birthday party to meet a stranger, for her to tell me a story about her daughter having surgery, for me to be like, oh wow, I just did attract that client, and they were teaching me how surgery can affect your energy, and I didn't put two and two together. So like, Spirit tries to show you, to make you aware of like what's going on, and it just takes time. And working on it, all 4 levels, feeling it, acknowledging it when it's there, knowing when you're being triggered, knowing when you're being pulled, and then doing the physical work. And then once you get to a point where Spirit tells you you can move on, when Spirit tells you are done, and you're just not running from the pain, because there's times that I ran from this pain, but knowing when Spirit tells you that it's time to move on is a blessing. And that's when you have to show up different in the world, which is challenging as heck sometimes. So just part of the healing process. So core wounds, attachment styles, communication styles, sometimes they all go together. My attachment style, I'm not going to get into depth, was a fearful avoidant. Fearful avoidant doesn't know how to set proper boundaries. They are passive aggressive. So a lot of things go hand in hand. So when you might be working on one thing, like that road rage, you're working on like a ton of other things as well. It's all just terminology that us humans give these things. Sorry, I have notes. I'm just looking over. And then how everything healing wise is trying to go within, trying to recognize the energy that you have within yourself, however you do it. I like to use what I call a mirror healing. So say someone is in front of me and they are not judging me clearly. Okay, am I judging them? And if I am judging them, I don't even know them. I could ask them a question, or I could work on my mental mind and remind myself that I don't know them. If someone has resentment, I was like, wow, wait, do I have resentment for them still? Or how has resentment or how has judgment affected my life? Because going back to like shrinking, how has that affected my life? And why am I attracting this? Because trust me, there's still people around who probably have resentment, and there's still people around who might judge me not as clear, but the fact that I'm not feeling it as deep means that I've healed that to a certain core, because I can separate, this is me, I'm no longer in judgment, because how spirit talks to me as an empath is, if you have things of like anger and I'm absorbing it deep, it's because I still have those layers to work on. So once I've worked on a ton of those layers, you can be you and I can be me. And it's so much more peaceful because I've worked on the layers. And I used the word the other day, miraculous, because it is a gift from God, and it is from your hard work, dedication, and God like helping you. Okay, so anyway, using that mirror effect could be for positive too, like someone shining their light. Like I have women and men in my life who, people who just came into my mind was Amy, who owns the shop. Like she's very well on her way, has her company, she has her business, she has her spiritual stuff. Like I just like, I'm inspired like to get my stuff rolling even more. My son is like a rock. He's supportive. He's a hard worker. Both my daughters are like, so I can look at other people's light and be like, God, they're amazing. I want to be just as amazing. I want to keep pushing myself. I want to keep taking their qualities that they have and bring those qualities more to my life. Okay. You can use learning about the elements. Like how can I learn about the elements, and learning about the elements and how can I work on them within me, learning about astrology and how can I learn that about me. I do know a little bit about astrology, but it's more like self-learning. I don't want to call myself an astrologer, I never would, but it's like knowing that I'm a Gemini, knowing that I'm the masculine side of Mercury, and how many life lessons I had to understand the feminine side of Mercury, which is ruled by Virgo, and understanding of when to share my voice and when not to share my voice. How to get the spiritual, how to bring in the spiritual messages, Gemini, bring them down to earth, and how to logically analyze them. That's a whole other topic in itself, because everyone's energy is being created. Yes, there's spiritual energy that's coming straight from source, but there's also energy that's coming from people's thoughts or people's how they like feel. So when I'm picking up on that, is it coming from source? Is it coming from another human being? And why am I feeling what I'm feeling, and what am I picking up on? So trying to balance that Mercury energy, and by studying the planets, studying what house it's in, and studying all those stuff is just a deeper way to look into yourself, to learn so much about yourself. Going on the Ascended Masters path, but I have worked with other guides than Ascended Masters, archangels, what some people call powerful women like Joan of Arc, okay? And by working with them, what I mean by working with them, they either make themselves known to me, like in a dream. Like Merlin was very Pacific, like Metatron and Merlin, Sandoval are people who are on my team. Day one, they haven't left me yet. Other people come in, like Joan of Arc came in when I needed her energy. So it could come in by just me pulling cards. Like I have a goddess deck, I have an Ascended Master deck. Which person's working with me today? Or just walking into a shop, like Roxa loves a local shop by me, walking into the local shop and being drawn to a statue. Like, why am I being drawn to that statue? Who is this person? Why? Is there something is there a reason why? spirit animals, crystals. Like there's so much that we can use from outside of ourselves to help to see ourselves. When clients come in, I pick 3 crystals, and the crystals are talking to them, talking to me about what energies they are trying to work within themselves. I already talked about the law of attraction and the law of vibration. And then another thing I had to learn was balancing the mind, heart, and soul. So trying to get them all work in teams. You know, sometimes they had me really focused on the logical mind. Like, if it ain't healthy, you ain't doing it. And then sometimes it's like, I had to focus on the heart of just follow your heart, go, you know. And now they're all seem to be more of a team and aligned. So, but I went through a healing process with that. And knowing that those rebirths, like the renewals, whatever you want to call them, the purification, the cleansing, all that comes from God. Like, I was born and raised Catholic. I went to Christian churches. I've also like explored other churches as well, but baptism, I do believe in the cleansing of it. But true, like, if you want to call it spiritual rank, true knowing where you're at and what you're attracting and how much you have released and when you're ready to let go of an energy, that comes from higher source. Like I did not get to choose when I was done working on this. I just kept working on it for 7 years. And then once I got the call that I was done, thank you. Like, I've done the inner work though. I faced it every day. I've been doing those 4 steps, and you know, the cleansing comes from above, could be channeled through a healer. I help people to release lower energies all the time, but that is only done when, like, I could peel, like if someone's working on anger, I could channel through God though and source. I'm channeling to release some of it, but until they know that you've balanced it to like healthy anger and you've released all that stuff from childhood or how it's affected you from all those layers, until that is done, it cannot be taken out in full, so you won't feel that trigger and that pull until God knows that it's time. Okay, so I'm almost at an hour and I haven't even touched base on growing my gifts, expanding my business, learning to embrace my skills, learning how to open up, being an empath. Like, I haven't even touched base on all that, but I'm going to end it here. I want to thank everyone for coming. Hopefully you get through the end. Sorry that it was kind of long. One of the sessions that I love the best is doing a 90-minute session. It is an hour of channeled healing. I work on whatever I'm guided to, but in general, I like to work on the chakras, meridians, nervous system, endocrine system. If they guide me to something else like the blood circulatory or the bones or anything like that, I will do that. But I do like to focus, depending on where you're at in your healing, at least get started with the chakras. And then I love the 90-minute because then it's a half an hour of going over what I felt, maybe using cards to guide you, sharing some of my experiences of how I work through the problems. And so I really love the 90-minute healing session. I do them live at Roxa Love Lockport or Evolve Yoga, Orland Park, or I can do them via FaceTime or Skype or, you know, something like that. So if you are interested in that, just let me know. And again, I appreciate your time and have a great day. Bye.